We are recording. Hey everybody, happy Thursday. Today, acting. I'm doing something creative every day, something collaborative, making art with other people, trying to cope with being at home, as I know a lot of you are as well. Today, acting. Acting. Acting can mean a lot of different things, honestly. What I mean here is sort of, I guess in a certain way, the old-fashioned way of acting where there's some writing, and you're going to perform that writing. We do a lot of acting on HITRECORD. We mostly just do it with our voices. Voice acting, which I think is actually one of the best ways to practice acting. When you're not in the same room as people because you're in an online community or because everybody's staying at home to avoid a pandemic, it's hard to do acting in person, but you can act with your voice. You can really cover a lot of what I think is interesting and challenging and fulfilling and fun about acting. So I went looking for a voice acting project and found one started by Anne Hurd. Just started an audio story. If you haven't checked out Audio Tales, it's a podcast that people in the community have been doing, basically just taking voice acting and turning it into little podcast pieces. And we just put out a great first complete episode you can get on Spotify and iTunes podcasts called Audio Tales. It's really good. Lots of people doing some good voice acting. But so Anne Hurd started a project for an audio tale, something to go on a podcast. She found an old piece of writing on the site that's a really good one. If you want to learn something about acting, this is a good piece of text to try to tackle. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. This one's a bit hard. I've done, over the last couple weeks, a lot of the voice acting I've done has been like on the easier side, kind of slow, poetry, not too hard. This one's a bit more challenging if you're into like trying to flex or trying to practice and grow and learn something about acting. If you practice this one, if you do this like a bunch of times and practice it and drill it and get good at it and record it, this is the kind of thing that will definitely like build your skills, honestly. It challenged me, and I'm good at this shit. So this piece is called Supermarket Monologue by a writer named Sexy Mustache. Again, a number of years ago, what was it, 2011, this was first posted. And people have been doing voiceover on it for years, actually, because it's just a really enjoyable piece of writing to read. But it's cool that now we have much easier technology that allows you to just within the app read the text and record right at the same time. Makes it easy. And so I think it'd be fun to get people doing this one. Again, I'm gonna warn you, it's not the easiest one. If you want to stay tuned at the end, there's actually a great project going on right now called Voice Acting for Beginners, which has a bunch of easier ones, and like do those too. But this is what inspired me tonight. I'm sort of advanced. But whether you're, I think, whether you've done this a lot or a little, I think it's always good to kind of try to play at the edge, as they say. My brother used to say that. Push yourself to the edge of your abilities. Try to do something that's hard, and because there's very little that's more satisfying in life than trying to do something that's hard, having trouble doing it, practicing it, repeating it, getting better at it, and reading a piece like this out loud. If you do it multiple times, you'll feel yourself get better at it. I did. I actually recorded a couple takes. I'll play you a part of it. Supermarket Monologue by Sexy Mustache. You are waiting in line like you always do, at the bank, at the DMV, at the movies, only this time you're holding a jug of milk you won't drink and a bag of apples, nameless and bland and smaller than your fist, so maybe you're at the grocery store, but it's not really one of those. It's an ironically titled supermarket, whose superiority must be evident in the pre-bagged produce. You contemplate a candy bar or a pack of gum, but candy is for children, and you'd chew the gum just for something to do, something rhythmic and methodical for when you're waiting in line. The person in front of you, always an old lady, How is it always an old lady? Is she really paying in change? Of course she is, because this is a commercial about how life has short changes and boring moments, so get through them by chewing this self-declaring new and improved gum, and there is always an old lady to symbolize the frustration and the mediocrity of waiting in line at the less-than-supermarket. But good thing is, this isn't really a commercial, it's just you. And this old lady and the cashier who looks tired and bored, and you think about offering her a stick of gum. A clever line, perhaps, and a smile, only you don't have any gum. And this old lady is never going to be done waxing on the good old days when eggs were 3 cents and protein was something you found in meat, not powder. And if you had the extra bills, you'd shove them into her hand and insist she keep her change. She's obviously never been ready for change. One thing I want to talk about with this one in particular is a thing that you'll hear actors talk about a lot, which is pace. Pace meaning basically how fast are you going? And, some different actors have different feelings about pace because it's sort of an external thing to talk about, meaning like just telling somebody to act faster can be kind of insensitive to whatever they're trying to, when they're, if an actor's trying to really feel something authentically, it can be hard to like just push your pace, because if you're trying to like be more beholden to like real feelings and let those drive the performance, you wouldn't be thinking to yourself, I gotta talk faster, or I should talk slower, or how's my pace, how's my rhythm? But oftentimes, depending on the material, pace really comes into, especially with comedy. You're not only driven by what's natural. You're driven by, some by what's natural, and you want to perform something that's realistic and natural, but you also might want to keep an eye on your pace to really drive the scene. And like I said, especially with comedy. So this monologue is sort of a comedy. It's my kind of comedy, because it's not like jokey comedy. It's like, I find it hilarious, but in a kind of a, I don't know, under the skin kind of way. But what I found was, in reading it wants a brisk pace. If you take this one too slow, first of all, it'll be long. But also, I think a lot of the comedy comes from underplaying things. So when I say underplaying, I mean when you underplay a beat in a monologue, that means like when you're reading through a sentence or a beat, a thought in the words, you don't land on it too hard. You don't make a big deal out of it. You just kind of like underplay it. And oftentimes pace is an important part of underplaying something. You just like kind of just go through it. And a lot of the dry humor in this piece comes from kind of just underplaying things by just speeding through them. And then, of course, if you're gonna pick up your pace and keep a brisk pace, if you're not pausing a lot, if you're not making a big deal out of a lot of things, if you're just kind of like burning through shit, then when you do pause, when you do land on something, it's meaningful. It's arresting. Oh, still recording. Oh, shit, I've already been talking for 8 minutes. That's not very pacey. So like I said, if you're into acting, if you like acting, if you want to practice acting, try this monologue. Try it. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a little hard. I found it challenging, but rewarding. And if you've got some time on your hands and you want to really go for it, and you really like acting, and you really want to work on your acting, do this 10 times. If you really want to do it like 20 or 30 times. That's the kind of shit that I've done my whole life. Just find a piece of text that's kind of fascinating and just do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. I mean, that's how you learn lines. That's how you memorize. That's like, if I were going to show up and shoot this tomorrow, I would probably do it. Before I would show up to set and shoot it, I would probably have done it 10 or 20 times to know it. If it were like a real monologue like this, you don't really find big monologues usually in shooting normal movies. If I were gonna perform this in a movie, I would probably do it 100 times. Not in a day, but over the course of, you know, weeks leading up to when I was shooting it. Repetition, practice. So, for the thespians out there. And like I said, if this one's tough, because it is, do the voice acting for beginners project. There's a whole bunch of, who started that one? Emily Liv. Really cool idea, voice acting challenges for beginners, she called it. And she's just put, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different pieces of text that she found from different writers that she thought were cool and inspiring. And you can just scroll through them and hit the record button whenever you want. Do one of them, do a bunch of them. Those are good for beginners. If you want to like push yourself, try the supermarket monologue. And yeah, hopefully it ends up in a podcast. I'll leave it there for today. And thanks again.